Here. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to see you all here, and it's nice to be inside, sheltered from the wind on this windy morning. Joel is not only blessing us with his music today, he's also going to be talking to us later, so we're looking forward to that. And in preparation for that, he's giving me a reading from Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 to 16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
Straight up, huh? All right, let me just pop this on. Excellent. How are we looking? 2, 1, 2? Yeah. Cool. All right, can I get everyone to stand up, please, for a second? That's it. There we go. I know you're going to love this. All right, just turn to the person to your left and just tell them that they're amazing. Yeah? That sort of half worked. If you didn't get someone to talk to, maybe you're all just brilliant. Okay, I just had to break the tension. It was like, yeah, sit down. It's okay. It's all right. I just shake it off a little bit. All right, where's my slide? Yeah, look at that, creativity. This dangling is going to annoy me. All right, it's great to see everyone here today. This is not where I'm normally found here in church. I'm usually down there, but it's great to be up here to be able to have a chat. I've been asked to speak about creativity and the role in the church. It's a subject you'll find pretty soon that I'm quite passionate about. And I can speak about with a fair bit of experience as both the inspired and hopefully the inspirer. Also, full disclosure, I'm sure you know, I'm not the world's most read person nor theologian, so maybe we can just consider this more of a TED talk rather than a sermon from on high. That'd be great. That makes me feel better. Next slide. Pew. Excellent. Okay, the overviews. Look at that font. So much new stuff happening today. Okay, I thought we'd take a look at creativity broadly, and then maybe take a bit of a look at the pros and cons about like how creativity works with us, what it can do for us, and then of course maybe some application to MCC. Let's get rolling. So of course, we have to start at the start. They say put your best foot forward, and of course, Genesis, the first book in the Bible, and I'm guessing the most important part of the Bible. Jokes aside, it's me. Creation. It's the 7 days about where we all started. And we're kicking off with that. Let's talk about the virtues of creativity. Let's look. It's a gift from God. We have all been given the power of creativity. It's divine. It's in us. I have an example. Look at this. Nothing. Ooh, boy, you guys are in for something. In the beginning, there was Joel and a texter. I'm pretty sure. Ha! He saw it, and it was... Thank you. To create something has a divinity about it. Where there was nothing, there is something priceless. And for this to exist, and it really does exist, like, that's done. That exists. It's real. You can smell it. I wield this here. And drawing amazing pictures is not the extent of my creativity. There is so much more that I can do. I can raise music. I can summon artists. I can create buildings. Kind of. But there is a limit to that expression of creativity in that I can't move atoms. I can't create matter. But what I can do is shift them around a little, make an impact, and then in that, I get to choose who and what I glorify when I do so. Let's talk about it. The object of the artist is the creation of the beautiful. What the beautiful is, however, is another question. Yeah? All right. We see God in creation. This might just be me. Oh, I'm going one too far. Might just be me. But I can't really think of a way to appreciate how good life is without the lens of creativity. Be it a stunning sunset, a walk in the woods, words crafted by skilled writers, Michael Bolton singing Nessun Dorma, as we talked about last year. Creation is one of the primary ways that we understand the beauty and wonder of the Lord. Creativity inspires. There's not one blade of grass, there's not one colour in the world that is not intended to make us rejoice. Yeah? Creativity. It is fantastic for perspective. Think about it. What's going on there? I think, if I recall, the front legs are that way and the back legs are that way. One of the interesting things about perspective is, well, probably a better example is I can be a bit of a pain to live with. Before I was married to Beck, I lived in my little apartment and I had a couple of couches. And every 3 to 6 months, I just love to move those couches around a bit. Just try it over there, try it over there. If you've met my mother, she's exactly the same. One of the things that always afforded me was perspective. It would help me understand the room, to see things slightly differently. And that's something I use that as a marker. One of the things that's interesting about that is like this thing. If you've ever walked into a room, one of the things that a lot of people will do straight up is they'll kind of kink their head, give it one of those, like, what's going on? That's like parallax motion, right? The idea is that you've got an object here and an object back here. And when you move, it gives you different perspectives. And that helps you understand the depth and the size of the room. One thing that creativity is really great for is looking at something that exists and seeing it from a different perspective. Creativity helps us offer up a mirror to things that we see. Sometimes it's a piece of music that can just unlock your heart. Sometimes, like we are totally fascinated as a culture with cinema, storytelling. Every day we consume stories, and they are there to give us empathy, impart wisdom, all from different perspectives that we might not hold ourselves. Creativity is one of the core things that helps us see this from a different perspective. Creativity also brings change. This amazing piece of art here cannot exist without the application of my talent. And the paper is no longer blank. Change occurred, and we all agree it was for the better. The end, no more discussion. Jesus was obviously all about change. Did I go off water slide or did it go one on its own? Oh no, that was you. Thank you. Yeah, you're on it. All right. So yeah, look, Jesus was all about change as well. He showed people their blind spots, often turning things around in their head, a lot of well-held positions, starting to be challenged. But creativity and order are at odds with each other, often at odds with each other, and need to be. Creativity is over here, and probably this side's better, and reason and logic and order are over here, and they desperately need each other. One cannot exist, or they can exist with each other, but in a vacuum, they are not great. Creativity pushes pretty hard against structure, and that's why we have challenging perspectives. What if we did this? What if we did that? But it is absolutely essential that it has structure. Because one of the things that, like for me, I'm a musician, there's no gig for me if there's no power. If someone hasn't gone through the process of wiring the power, if there's not an accountant to make sure that there's money to pay me, that there's not food on the tables, there's a whole process to which creativity can sit atop. But it can be pretty stifling as well. And there's this perfect little spot, sort of exemplified here, where we have creative freedom. If you take something like what we did last year with in the middle of the COVID, that's sort of where you tend to find that I tend to thrive the most. So here's a problem, we need to find a solution, and we don't have too many constraints around it. And you can go too far down the wrong path and just go wild with the creativity, or you can stay too straight and narrow and not engage. It's a challenging one to get, but in this particular situation with the COVID, with the live streams that we did, like that was such an exciting time in its worst way. But like it was a really challenging time for us creatives to put our heads into the place. And people like Alex and myself and Matt sitting there just scrambling, and everyone that was involved. There was heaps of people that were involved, just trying to go, what can we do to spin up something interesting in this time? It's cool. So creativity is great for showing us our blind spots. It's great for getting new perspectives, for reflection, for observation, and best of all, obviously, inspiration. But all this requires good structure, and herein is the tension. There's an interesting concept called reification, or music reification. Okay. Anyone familiar with reification? Heard of the word before? Yeah, good, because that means I can talk about it. It's the idea that you hear, like particularly with aesthetics to music, it's the idea that you hear a song or a melody that you've heard like so many times before, but you can't extract yourself from the metadata or the things that are associated with that music, rather than hearing the music for its own benefit. So, I have an example. I'm going to tell you a story about a duke who went hunting with a great King Arthur, and they got lost in the woods. Maestro. It's coming. All right. Cold and alone, the darkness overtook him, the forest seeping into his mind. The duke lost himself. Right. What was the song? Anyone? Say it. Star Wars. Exactly right. Star Wars. For those of you who are familiar with it, it's like one of the most iconic pieces of music within the Star Wars realm. And it's almost impossible for me to tell you that story without thinking about Star Wars. I can't tell you one context while this other context that you're very familiar with beats down at you. And this is something that's what we call music reification. It's like the idea, so no one told you life was going to be this way? Yeah, that kind of thing. Everyone hears those ideas when you've been exposed to something over and over and over again. You can't step away from it. You lose sight of things. So, what we risk by not challenging our creative outcomes, in this case music, is that we run the risk of reifying our entire culture and becoming entrenched in tradition, with the extreme cases that can lead to counter Christ-like behaviours like self-congratulations and self-righteousness if unchecked. Suddenly we might find ourselves at a point where we are singing to nostalgia, where we are reminiscing of a better time, remembering that this was once a great song, masterfully performed, but that's a perspective that your fellow pew member may not share. They might have the benefit of understanding that history, and we risk not only isolating them, but we realising that we're not actually singing what we set out intending to sing. Another danger of constant repetition and an overbearing structure is that you might be aware of something called Imposter Syndrome. And it's a psychological effect where basically you reflect on your behaviours and think that maybe you don't belong in the group, that you're inadequate, or that somehow you'll get found out as being a phony. It's an interesting contrast, because if we just blindly push through our usual routine of singing, say, 3 songs on a Sunday morning in public, then it's likely to make some folks wonder whether or not why they're not filled with the same joy that you may be. It's an interesting thing. So while our music intent is towards uplifting and joy, we actually kind of risk stagnation and blindly persisting, which is an honourable virtue. It can become a deterrent to attendance for those who aren't aware of our historical context. I'm reminded of the screw tape letters. You know, when we talk about singing and when we come in and we're not really in the mood and we sort of, we've all been there. I've certainly been there. Screw tape talks about this great thing when he talks about laughter. And he's in the screw tape letters, for those who are familiar with it. And when he talks about laughter, he's talking about laughter in the terms of like when a father maybe sees his son for the first time, or when good friends are reunited. There's this wholesome, heartful laughter that connects you. And he contrasts it with what we substitute for laughter sometimes, which is like flippancy, like your ability to turn a phrase to kind of like, make a quick gag. And Screwtape basically is advising his little nephew, and he says, "Can we go to the next slide? I think I'm stuck. Oh yeah." He's talking about the habit of flippancy. He says, "If prolonged, the habit of flippancy builds up around a man the finest armor plating against the enemy that I know." The enemy in this case is God, it is us. "It is 1,000 miles away from joy. It deadens instead of sharpening the intellect, and it excites no affection between those who practice it." Screwtape letters. So, It's not to say that that's what we're doing or what's happening here, but I just want to ask a couple of questions. If you're not really singing on a Sunday morning, or more so, you're not enjoying singing, the question is why? And there's no wrong answer here. You're not going to upset me. I get paid to play to people who aren't listening to me. It's fine. But I feel like I maybe owe you more than that. Everyone's not going to agree on the answer to this, but we mustn't be afraid to ask the question, how can we do this better? How do we make this better? The dangers of dialing something in, right? We've all jumped in a car before. We've all gone for a drive, totally forgotten where we're going. And driving a car is a complicated process. There's gears, levers, lights. You've got to perceive what's going on around you. And in the middle of all these things, driving a ton of aluminium and petrol around is not, exactly safe. And in the middle of that, whoops, you missed the turn. This sort of thing can happen like that. But if you apply some time pressure, maybe you're running late for dinner with the in-laws. Now you're thinking fastest routes. Now you're thinking, where's traffic? How am I going to do this better? What's going to get me there? You might even change the way your right foot sits on the accelerator. I feel that as a church and as a collective, we need to be vigilant in thinking about where we're going and how we want to get there. And then maybe we're just starting to run a little bit late. The importance of change. See, I always thought that the Catholic Church, and I'm no expert in the Catholic Church, and this is certainly not a dig at the Catholic Church, but I always thought it was this big, rickety structure that was probably a little more conservative, more right-leaning, and doesn't really move. As a pretty formulaic approach to services, church life is quite ritualistic and surrounded by habits. No? Okay. Groan, it's all right. Yeah, thanks. There it is. Got it. Yeah. It took a while. It's pretty high-level stuff, guys. Come on. Our little church, though, I always thought was a little more left-leaning than that. A vibrant, creative church that wasn't afraid to buck trends. We had a rock band, female speakers, what? Talented folks like Marinda to create these beautiful stained glass windows. People like Max to make this incredible sound desk behind us. And all the design work that's here. It's hands like Al. I could mention everyone. So many of you had a creative hand in this. And because of those things that we've done before, we have these things where we're able to enjoy Meg up front, and Megan, who spoke a couple of weeks ago, and Kate, etc. There's so much interesting stuff that's coming out of what we've done before. So how do we find the spark that has given Margate its traditional creative background? How do we challenge ourselves to do this better when we're probably rightfully scared to rock the boat and maybe risk losing some of our treasured attendees? Unlike those bigger institutions, we don't really have the constraints here. We are free to move and change and please. And my question is the church that you're going to now the church that you want to be at? More specifically, is maybe Sunday morning what you want from your church experience? Or is it just what you're getting? I don't mean to just ramble off rhetoric and provoke leadership. But my question is to you. Are you engaging with your creativity to build this kingdom? Or are you comfortable in the well-worn path of those before you? Neither of these is wrong. But I think we all have a responsibility to make sure that our services and our engagement with the community is something that we take responsibility for and something we can be proud of to help build God's kingdom. Creativity brings forth the new, and that's not without pain, sacrifice, and compromise. Of course, there is the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, I get that. And that's entirely valid if you're 100% sure it ain't broke. Yeah. This is a little one from Martin Luther King. I'll read it out. Time itself is neutral. It can be used either destructively or constructively. More and more I feel that the people of ill will have used time much more effectively than have the people of goodwill. We will have to repent for this generation, not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. Human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of men willing to work, to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. I like this last bit. We must use time creatively in the knowledge that the time is always ripe to do right. So, now what? How do we demonstrate some creativity in ourselves and in our community in 2021? Looking back through our history, we have shown that we are capable of great things and participating in our culture of community. We have had and still have access to an abundant list of talented and willing volunteers with a passion for people and community. We had our Simply Awesome nights in the past, an extravaganza of live music, skits and dance, open to the public and to a very full house with amazingly talented volunteers. We had quiz nights, karaoke nights, dinner nights, art exhibitions, barn dances. One of our few remaining events is our Christmas Eve service, which we have still continued to do. And we draw a jam-packed building we have for years. COVID may deliver us a blow, but I'm sure we'll work through it. What can we do going forward to live in the creativity that is inherent to all of us? What can you do to light a fire under people and under ourselves to get excited to be here more than once a year? What can we do? I'm talking about reviving our culture of creative heritage, becoming present and relevant in our Margation subculture. I'm not talking about just throwing a bunch of creative ideas and just seeing what sticks. There's excellence in creativity and change. It comes through sturdy hands and obviously walking in step with good processes. But it's all just talk if none of it happens without you. Please be encouraged. We have so much to be thankful for. This building, all the people that are here, we are all amazing workers. I want you to feel empowered to affect change. I want you to remember to see the potential that we have. This hall, it's empty, a lot. I suspect one of the greatest barriers to entry for people here is actually just getting through those front doors. So how do we normalise that for people? Maybe you're the person to have the idea to run a book club. Maybe hosting a men's health chat group. Maybe you've always wanted to have night services for some private worship. Can I encourage you, please take some time this week to think and reflect on this. I'd encourage you all to call, chat with someone, get a group, talk about your ideas, start the conversations. A little inspiration can go a long, long way, and I think we need it. Let's get creative to challenge, not discard, not destroy, challenge and integrity test some of the ways that we do things so that our community has fresh footholds that we can offer them to reach in and the freedom and the love that we have to share with them. That's it from me. I'll be around for a Kransky or 3 if you'd like to chat about this further. And of course, as we talked about, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. They set it on a lampstand where it gives light to all in the house. Just so your light must shine before others and that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Heavenly Father. And of course, we do this to build Jesus' kingdom. Thank you.